26 runs the last 2 days for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're back to the 500 mark. The Phillies, meanwhile, are back in the basement of the National League East. They're hoping to get out of it today. It's the finale of this three-game series, the Phils and the D-backs from Chase Fields. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy, joined by Ben Davis. We'll catch up with Greg Murphy in just a little bit. What a display the last two nights for the Arizona Diamondbacks offense. The Phillies starting pitchers really struggled against these D-backs hitters throughout the lineup. It wasn't just one or two guys. It was everybody. Today it's Aaron Nola hoping to quiet an offense that obviously is hitting its stride.
Hopefully he can do it, but I think a display is a mild understatement. I think these boys came out swinging the bats. They did it in a myriad of ways. Doubles, triples, homers. I mean, I tell you what, I haven't seen a display like that in a long, long time. Here you're seeing a few of the homers that they've hit. 6 homers the last 2 nights. And I'm telling you, these are long ones.
We talked about it not being just one guy. They've spread it out. David Peralta, who has 7 RBIs in this series, isn't playing today to start. He is on the bench, but Aaron Hill is playing. His numbers are staggeringly good against the Phillies, but he's been part of the assaults.
Yeah, everybody's been doing their job. And I tell you what, the exception of Lamb last night, everyone had a base hit in this ball game. We take a look at these numbers. 410, Tom. 410 batting average in the last 2 games, being outscored 26-4.
17 extra base hits for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So as we mentioned, the Phils hope to quiet that today. So how do they do that? What is the game plan? Well, the game plan for today is to give the baseball to a 22-year-old right-hander.
And a guy I think that really learned from his last start in the fact that he didn't have his best stuff against the Padres. Still went out and pitched. I look for him to have a lot better stuff today. The curveball has been very good for him. He needs to make a few adjustments with that changeup.
115 batting average against. The chase percentage is huge. Nearly 45% of the pitches have been chased that Aaron Nola throws, the curveballs that Aaron Nola throws. And let's look at it. Sometimes it looks like a slurve, a slider and curve, but it's got some bite to it.
It's got some bite. And the last game in San Diego, we did have a very good vantage point. You take a look at some of these breaking balls. They're very, very obviously, down the way to a righty, but he can throw that and back foot it to a lefty as well. It's a pitch, I think, that hitters just don't know how to react to it because it's very late breaking and it's sharp.
Well, a couple of outings this year, including the Padres game, the Cubs game, it's been the curveball that's gotten his fastball back in the strike zone. So today it'll be Aaron Nola trying to end this brief spell of losing for the Phils, making his 5th start in the big leagues. Meanwhile, Chase Anderson making his 2nd start since coming off the disabled list, his 20th overall for the D-backs. Well, one guy who will not be in the lineup today for the Phillies is Maikel Franco. In fact, he's probably not available at all. They hope that he'll be okay for Friday's game. We'll have an update on Maikel Franco when we return. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Toyota. Where will Toyota take you? Visit buyattoyota.com to find out. Toyota, let's go places. By Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. By Citizens Bank, one deposit checking. Keeping things simple is helping you bank better. And by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Learn more at IBX.com. The week is continuing to open eyes of advanced scouts all around baseball. A slow start in May has turned into a sensational summer. Michael is swinging his bat with confidence and is piling up production. He's among all rookie leaders in home runs, doubles, and RBIs. Franco's other game has been on display as well, defending the hot corner at a high level with skill and precision. The Phillies' young third baseman has been a treat to watch, and it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless.
Well, Philly fans are going to have to wait a little bit to see Maikel Franco back out on the field. You see him right there. He's got that wrist wrapped up, of course, hit by a pitch in last night's game. And, guys, it was a scary moment in the game because when he went down on the field, you thought to yourself, well, that does not look good. It looked perhaps that maybe that was a broken bone. Maikel Franco thought perhaps it was a broken bone as well. You take a look at it, went down in a heap of pain. The good news is the x-ray showed no broken bone, just a contusion on that wrist. He's going to need some time. You saw that it's pretty wrapped up right now. He is unavailable for today's game. They don't know how long he's going to be out, but I talked to Franco today, and he said that he's just happy that he knows he's going to be out there pretty soon. So they're going to let that heal up. An off day tomorrow, 3-game series in Milwaukee. Whether or not he plays in that still remains to be seen. But he will be back a lot sooner than we looked like last night when he first went down, guys.
Yeah, Murphy was saying today that when he moved it around last night, we saw him at the hotel. When he moved it around last night, it was stiff and sore. Today, it was a little looser. So that is good news. He also said that the trainers have not discussed anything with him as far as the DL goes. So that leaves him optimistic also. So that's good. It'll be nice to have him back in the lineup at some point in this Brewers series coming up. Let's take a look at the Phillies lineup, brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. Hernandez, Blanco, and Herrera, followed by Ryan Howard, Jeff Francoeur, and Cody Ashe. Freddie Galvis will bat 7th at shortstop, Cameron Rupp 8th. And batting 9th at pitching is right-hander Aaron Nola, and they will face right-hander Chase Anderson. Anderson 5-4 on the year, an earned run average of a little over 4. You see, this will be his 20th start. That's light as far as a schedule goes. That's because he was on the disabled list for several weeks because of inflammation in his right triceps.
He's a guy that will give you something to hit, so hopefully the Phillies can take advantage of that. As we take a look at the scouting report, 90-93, 3-pitch pitcher, but the opponents are hitting 307. 307 on his fastball, so the Phillies will get a heater to hit. Don't miss it.
All right, time now for our Nissan keys to today's game.
Keys to the game, no more souvenirs. 6 homers in the last 2 games, so I'd like to not see any balls flying in the stands for the Diamondbacks and string hits together. The Phillies are getting a few hits here and there, but they need to string them together and score some runs.
All right, well, Cesar Hernandez, who did not play last night, will lead things off. He is 6 for 14 on this road trip. And overall, his average at .290 with a home run, 27 runs batted in. And the 27-year-old Chase Anderson's first pitch is whacked foul, and it's 0-1. So we're underway. It's been a great month of August for Hernandez, which is why his average is up to .290. Fastball on the inside corner, according to Jim Wolf, who has a reputation of being a pitcher's umpire. He's consistent.
Yes, he is.
Fouled back over the screen. So 3 straight fastballs from Chase Anderson. Wolf is behind the plate. Adrian Johnson's at first. Bill Miller's at second. And Doug Eddings is around at third. That one is floated out towards center field, and it'll drop for a base hit. So the first off-speed pitch of the afternoon results in a single by Cesar. That's a good way to start. The Phillies did score a run in last night's first inning.
There goes the no-hitter.
There goes the no-hitter. Andres Blanco playing third base today. 0 for 3 last night with a run scored. .287 hitter with 6 homers and 32 runs batted in, or excuse me, 2 homers and 11 runs batted in. He has done his damage mostly as a pinch hitter this year, but he's already picked up a career high in doubles and extra base hits. 11 doubles for Andres Blanco. 11 of his 28 hits. Fastball in there, 0-1.
His last at bat last night, he flew out to the base of the center field wall, 406 foot out.
Well, today's Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Holly Parker of Riverside. Phillies hit a home run in today's ball game. Then Holly will win $200.
Good luck, Holly.
Now that's a souvenir that you wouldn't mind somebody walking away with.
As long as it's from the boys in gray.
Right. Cesar leads off first base. And time is called.
12:42.
There's Chip Hale. His team has erupted for 26 runs in the last 2 days. And they think they're back in the race now. Not only the National League West, but also the wild card. 6.5 games out in the West. Good off speed pitch, and it's 1-2. Meanwhile, for Pete Buchanan, now the Phillies are 16.5 games back, 45 and 69. He just wants them to start playing the way they played up until this series. Outside, he lays off the off-speed pitch. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Well, the biggest reason I think that they've been so good after the break is the fact that, you take a look at the NL West, the Diamondbacks 6.5 games. The way they're swinging the bats, I would not count them out. But with the Phillies, the thing that really turned them around was the starting pitching. Obviously, we haven't had that the first 2 games here in Arizona.
2-2 pitch is in the air to right field. It's not deep, playable for Inciarte. And he puts it away for the first out.
Diamondbacks, I know offense, we see some staggering numbers, 410 batting average in the first 2 games with them. But to keep that going, kind of like the Blue Jays have done pretty much the entire year, I mean, that's a group of all-stars that they have. There's a couple all-stars on this ball club, but collectively as a group, when these boys are swinging the bats.
Well, they have some emerging all-stars, whether it be Pollock in center field. I mean, Goldschmidt is already that way. David Peralta, you see right there. Here's Odubel Herrera. His 13-game hitting streak came to a close last night. He swung very early in counts last night. Now, he could swing early in counts here because Anderson is going to, as Ben said, give him a fastball. But it's been a solid season. 287 batting average. Breaking ball, and it's 1 ball and no strikes.
Chase Anderson taking notice of that fact that he's swinging early, starts him with a breaking ball.
Chase Anderson faced the Phillies back on May 15th, went 5 1/3 in a game which the Phillies won 4-3. Phillies swept out the D-backs in Philadelphia. Well, he is really deliberate when he gets a base runner. Now, part of that is that Castillo is not solid throwing guys out. Castillo is 1 for 14 so far as a member of Arizona, trying to throw guys out.
Tom, send him a text and let him know it's getaway day for us. Do that.
That one's in there. 1 ball, 1 strike. He threw him a changeup.
I remember when the Phillies did sweep them out at home. I remember walking away from that series, and I think you and I had this discussion. And I said, that team is terrible.
Yeah, I think we did think that. And they're totally different right now.
Totally revamped. And they were bad.
Odubel takes a breaking ball, and it's 1-2.
3 pitches, 2 hooks, and a changeup.
Anderson is a 4-pitch pitcher. He'll use 2 different kinds of fastballs, the 4-seamer and the 2-seamer. And then the changeup, which we've seen, and the curve. His last start was a good one. He went 7 innings, allowed just 4 hits, 7 strikeouts. He won the game 2-0. And a curveball outside, 2-2. There goes Hernandez, and the pitch is popped foul. Today's ballgame is also available in Spanish. Just use the SAP button on your television to change the language through the menu on your cable box.
See.
Bill, Angel, and Will calling today's game. Castillo looking at Glenn Sherlock. He's the gentleman to your left who is giving the signs to control the running game. Hernandez does not go, and the 2-2 is a broken back grounder to first base. They get one at first. The throw to second is not in time. Cesar gets in ahead of the tag by Nick Ahmed. Pieces of the bat are all along the infield. So fielder's choice for Odubel. And there are 2 outs. Ryan Howard's coming up.
The only fastball he saw that at bat. In on his hands. This bat explodes. The epitome of hitting one off the knuckles, I'll tell you. You see Goldschmidt there, creates a lane even after the play to make a good throw to second base.
Ryan Howard with 64 runs batted in on the season. He has 23 since the 2nd of July. Tried to check his swing. Did he go? Yes, says the third base umpire, Doug Eddings. Ryan so far in this series is 1 for 4. And 3 hits on the road trip. One of those hits a home run. The way they had the shift again today is kind of to the advantage of Ryan Howard. Fouls it back 0-2. 93-mile-an-hour fastball. Because Aaron Hill is tucked over to the right, and it leaves a pretty good sized gap right over the umpire.
Yeah, this is exactly where Ryan Howard got his base hit last night, beating that shift. But you're right. I mean, he hits a ground ball to straightaway second base here. It's a hit and a run for the Phils.
Swing and a miss. He got it. Threw him a curveball. First strikeout for Chase Anderson. And the side is retired. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 man left. Aaron Nola set to go to work here in Arizona. Lineup, it's brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. Inciarte, Pollock, and Goldschmidt, followed by 4, 5, and 6 of Jake Lamb, Wellington Castillo, and Aaron Hill. And the bottom third of Romack, Ahmed, and Chase Anderson. And they will face Phillies right-hander Aaron Nola, 2-1 in his first year in the big leagues with an ERA of 3.65, 21 strikeouts, and 24 2/3 innings of work. And the book on Aaron Nola is that he will vary his speeds with his fastball. And he's got a good curveball, too.
Yeah, and as we take a look at the scouting report, he'll usually sit around 91. Very good curve, but the changeup is a pitch that he needs to get a little better at. Well, a lot better. 417 opponents are hitting against that changeup, so he needs to make the adjustment with that pitch.
Well, here's Inciarte to lead it off. He came on in yesterday's game when Yasmani Tomas went out with a tight calf. Tomas is available to pinch hit today. Inciarte 0 for 4 in this series. Takes inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Diamondbacks are 3rd in the league in average at 265, and now, because of the 26 runs they've scored the last 2 days, 1st in runs. A little low. In fact, over the last 19 games, David Peralta and the Diamondbacks are averaging over 5 runs per game. 5.21 runs per game. 2-2.
Boy, if you're a starting pitcher, how much pressure does that take off?
That's huge.
I mean, just knowing that your boys have your back and you're going to score some runs.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Inciarte. There's a changeup that's pulled foul. Well, last night it was Jeremy Hellickson who was the recipient of all the runs. But he did a nice job front running. He also contributed with 3 RBIs at the plate. How about his swings last night as a hitter?
He was on everything. He worked the walk-off Adam Lowen later in the ball game.
That one slapped foul. A little defensive swing. The Diamondbacks will head to Atlanta after today's game. They'll have an off day in Atlanta tomorrow for a series that begins Friday. Another foul ball. They're excited about the fact that they've reached 500. But the last time they reached 500, they were excited as well. And then they lost 8 of 9. So now Chip Hale says it's great, but we have to prove that we belong in this race. There's a curveball that's looped out to left. It'll drop in for a base hit. So Inciarte is aboard. That'll bring A.J. Pollock up. Murph, this is a tale of 2 very different series between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks.
Tom, it certainly is. You remember back in May when the Phils swept Arizona back in Philadelphia. You see the numbers that Arizona put up back then, just a .259 team batting average. They had 28 hits in those 3 games and scored just 8 runs. But take a look at what they've done in the 2 games this series. You mentioned the .410 batting average. Look at the runs scored. 26 runs already in those 2 games. 6 home runs as well. And slugging percentage over 821. So it has been certainly very different. And, you know, that's why the Phils were able to win 3 in Philadelphia and have struggled to get a win here so far in Arizona. But they'll look forward to doing that today, of course.
Well, they're going to need Jim Wolf to call that pitch a strike that Aaron Nola keeps throwing to that spot. It's 1 ball and no strikes to Pollock, who's been a big reason why those numbers are skewed the way they are here in Arizona. He's 6 for 10 in the series.
And very aggressive early on in counts.
Taking a look down at Andy Green in the third base coach's box. Inside, 2-0. balls and 1 strike.
Does look like his ball's got some movement, some good sink to it tonight. Today, I should say.
Fastball in there, 2-2. And that's the spot where he needs that pitch to be called a strike, because it's a pitcher's pitch. It's pretty hard to make some positive contact on it if you're a hitter, if you locate it like that.
I think if you're a righty and you have that hole open, that's your best shot.
Yep.
Try and shoot that hole. But you're right. Other than that, there's not a whole lot you can do with it.
Arte has the same distance off first that he's had in this at bat. He goes. Curveball hit toward third. A base hit to left field. Arte's on his way to third base. And the throw not there in time. So first to third with nobody out for the Diamondbacks.
I think it's the right pitch because Pollock did see a lot of fastballs. It's just not in the right location. And obviously with the way they're swinging bats, you can't leave a ball right there. Can't be done.
Freddie Galvis over with a quick word with Aaron Nola. The Phillies will set up to turn 2. They'll concede a run here in the bottom of the first inning if they can turn a double play. Goldschmidt has hit into 10 double plays. He's the National League leader in hitting and among the leaders in a number of categories offensively. And he takes inside. That's a changeup, but it's 1 ball and no strikes. Well, that's pretty darn good. 370 with runners in scoring position. And that's even with his numbers being down recently.
Righty on righty, first pitch changeup. Do you like that, Tom?
Not necessarily, since it's probably his 3rd best pitch. Outside and low, 2-0.
It's his 3rd best pitch. It's righty on righty, and you have nothing to base that off of. So for Goldschmidt, who's never seen him before, he's looking at it as a heater. I mean, it wasn't a good location. Obviously, it was a ball, but I don't understand that pitch.
Swing and a miss. And it's 2-1. Diamondbacks with excellent speed on the corners. Arte at third and Pollock at first. Outside and low, 3-1. Starters have allowed 19 earned runs in the first 2 games of this series. Bullpen allowed 7 earned runs in the first 2 games. Combination of Aaron Harang and David Buchanan. Ground ball right side. That'll sneak into the right field. A base hit. 1 run is in. Pollock's on his way to third. The throw by Francoeur cut off by Galvis. And it's 1-0 Arizona. So an RBI for Goldschmidt, 82nd of the year. He's now the leader in the National League. Well, that's what you were talking about before, Ben, on that pitch, is to try to push it the other way, and that's what Goldschmidt did.
Yeah, this is what good hitters do. Pitch down and away. Obviously, in his count, not the pitch that he wants, but he'll take what they're going to give him. And that's what good hitters do. Yes, he does have 22 home runs, but the man is just a pure hitter. Best first baseman in the game, Tom.
82 runs batted in to go along with those 22 home runs. So now Jake Lamb, who is 2 for 9 in this series, and overall hitting .281 in his rookie year with 4 home runs, and already 18 pitches for Aaron Nola. And that one's off the glove of Cameron Rupp. Up to second base goes Goldschmidt. That'll be the third pass ball of the year for Cameron. Just missed it.
Can't happen. I mean, I noticed a couple pitches before that. He's really back on his heels, even with runners on base. I like to see him be a little more on the balls of his feet.
Inside corner. The other part of it is that wasn't a bad pitch either that Noah threw. It was called a ball by Jim Wolf. It was just below the strike zone. Inside, 2-1. Ground ball back toward the middle. Galvis is up with it. A run scores. Let the Phillies get the first out. It'll be an RBI for Jake Lamb. Over to third goes Goldschmidt. 2-0 Arizona.
Boy, did he do his job there. Got him in and got him over.
Well, that'll bring Wellington Castillo to the plate, and he is part of our Geico quote of the day on his recent power surge. Getting more experience, that helps me. I think it's helping me to learn from other good hitters too. I've been around good hitters. Sometimes it takes time to figure it out. I think that's what's going on. He has 8 home runs in his last 12 ball games, 12 starts. The infield is in with one man down. Takes a curveball, 0-1. And this is what he did Monday night. He was part of the laser show for the Diamondbacks.
Yes, he was. This ball to right center, right above the 413 sign. A big homer.
2 for 4 in this series with a home run, 4 RBIs. That one's popped foul to our right out of play. 0-2. Chip Hale thinks that the reason he's been successful, and he's already matched his career high in home runs, he said playing time. He said he was on the bench in Chicago. He was on the bench in Seattle. Man just needed to play.
But he still only has 145 at bats.
Yeah. Broke his bat this time. It's a roller to the left of the mound. They get the runner at first, and Goldschmidt holds at third. Castillo didn't run with contact. I think he may have slipped. He got tied up with Cameron Rupp.
Well, he's picking his thumbs up out of the batter's box.
Oh yeah, that hurt a little bit.
Knocked him over with that sinker. Been there.
Well, Aaron Hill is now the hitter. Hill 3 for 5 in yesterday's game. He's got Goldschmidt over at third. 2 runs are in here in the bottom of the first. Inside, 1-0. Aaron Hill was just a triple away from the cycle last night. Would have been his 3rd cycle.
This would be the 28th pitch of the inning.
Everybody knows the situation with the bullpen. Although, I have to say, they got through last night's game okay. And Cesar Jimenez, who has been added to the roster, David Buchanan's been optioned out, is here for Pete Buchanan to use. Could have been a whole lot worse last night, though. Hector Neris was part of the reason why they got through it without any real length. That one's out toward left center field. Ashe's on the run and slides, and he made the catch. What a play by Cody Ashe. It hung up there long enough for him to get to the vicinity And then he wrapped it up with a little slide, and the side is retired. 2-run score. It could have been more, but Cody Asche venturing into the alley to pull this one in. And Freddie Galvis to the plate against Chase Anderson. 2 runs on 3 hits for the Diamondbacks in their half of the first. 29 pitches for Aaron Nola. And Francoeur takes strike 1. How about these numbers for Francoeur? Over his last 14 games, he's 16 for 40, hitting .400 with 9 RBIs. He's hit safely in 8 straight starts.
Nice double last night.
And he's ahead now, 2 balls and 1 strike.
I do really enjoy watching him interact in the clubhouse.
Oh.
He cannot sit still. He just goes from person, just walks around talking to everybody. I bet you he walks a mile in the clubhouse each day. He just walks around everywhere.
Why don't you put one of those Fitbits on him or something and see if you can find it. 3 balls, 1 strike to Francoeur. And there is strike 2. That's the pitch we were talking about with Nola. That he didn't get every time in the first. It's a good pitch. Although that one did come back a little bit. Opposite way, base hit for Francoeur. Well, it was the same location, and he just drove it the other way. Monday, August 24th is Country Music Night at Citizens Bank Park. You can enjoy country music bands and much more. Order your tickets now at Phillies.com/country to be one of the first 2,000 fans to receive the exclusive Phillies camo snapback hat. Tickets can be purchased, as we mentioned, for that Mets series anytime by going to Phillies.com. But for this special offer, go to Phillies.com/country. Leadoff single, and it brings Cody Asche to the plate. Cody is 1 for 4 in this series.
Nice piece of hitting there by Frenchie. You know he's going to call it, therefore you have to swing at it. And he hits it hard that way. Smoked it.
Up and in. 1 ball, 1 strike. Cody making his 79th start of the season. One ball, 1 strike. Teams are doing this more and more. They have the overshift on for him. Now he's tried to push the ball up the third base line a couple times. He was successful in San Diego with that. That one's pulled down the right field line. It's a fair ball going down to the corner. Francoeur read it well. He's on his way to third, and he'll be held there. It'll be a double for Kobayashi. That was a great play by Ender Inciarte, aggressively taking it out of the corner. And it puts runners on second and third with nobody out.
That's the advantage you have of being in your own ballpark. You know the nooks and crannies that we talked about the other night. Cody gets a hanging changeup here, rifles it down the right field line, but Inciarte does. He gets over there, makes a great play, and he's got a very good arm. I tell you, he can sling it out there.
Yeah, all his momentum was carrying him to the ball, so he was able to be aggressive with it.
This is one of my keys: string hits together.
Galvis 1 for 6 in this series. Takes a breaking ball, 0-1.
And last night, 9th inning, Freddie hits the ball down the line. Inciarte gets over there, knocks it down. I mean, they're down. Phillies down obviously by a lot of runs, and keeps Freddie to a single. It's a good play in last night's ball game.
Foul back, now it's 0-2.
See Ender.
Runners lead off, no balls, 2 strikes to Galvis. And he pops it up. It should be back into the seats. And then off the dugout. Ooh. Nice gesture by that young guy, giving it to the youngster in the orange shirt, who then offers it to the gentleman who had it and then dropped it. Some good manners going on.
Very good.
Here's the 0-2 to Galvis again. And he fouls it toward the upper deck.
Good manners here in the desert, Tom. Valley of the Sun.
Swing and a miss. He got him with a changeup. Way out in front of it. Second strikeout for Anderson. And with one away, Cameron Rupp is due up.
Straight change. Really had good away movement. Not even down and away. The ball just seemed to make a right turn there. Or really enjoyed just a ground ball to the right side there. You know, obviously you want to score them both, but you get down in the count, 2 strikes on you, just even get a ball to the right side. Accomplish what Lamb did for the Diamondbacks last inning.
Cameron Rupp had 2 hits in yesterday's game. And he lifts that one out towards center field. Francoeur will tag. Pollock is under it. And Pollock's throw will go toward third. There'll be a sac fly for Cameron Rupp. And it's a 2-1 game. Twelfth RBI of the year for Rupp.
Cameron, same situation last night in the second inning. It's a little check swing comebacker to the pitcher. Better job of getting a better pitch to hit, staying in the middle of the field. And that's where you'd like to see if Freddie could have gotten advanced a runner towards the hit a ball to the right side and advance Cody to third. It's a tie ball game right now. I know, again, easier said than done. But when the Phillies were playing very well up until these last 2 games, they were the things that they were doing.
Well, here's Nola. And Nola with 2 hits in 9 at bats so far. And it's no balls and 1 strike. Chase Anderson, 9 batters faced, 8 first pitch strikes so far. Straight strikes now by Chase Anderson. 0-2 pitch. And he waves at it. Castillo will flip it over to first. That'll do it for the Phillies here in the second. But they do get a run back on a sac fly by Cameron Rupp. They leave one in scoring position. We'll go to the bottom of the second. It's 2-1 Diamondbacks. Beginning Monday, August 24th. All 4 games are at 7:05. You can get your tickets by going to Phillies.com. The Mets are currently sitting atop the National League East by 2.5 games over the Washington Nationals. Maikel Franco is sitting in the corner of the dugout with that wrist wrapped up. I believe that he just watched a ball go flying past him from Ryan Howard.
They were ripping him pretty good today, weren't they?
Yeah.
Clubhouse.
And it was only because he was wearing that brace.
Yes.
In some ways. He was wearing it last night at the hotel when the Phillies came back. Jamie Romack will lead it off for the Diamondbacks. And he takes a pitch just a bit low. 1 ball, no strikes. This guy was having a good year at AAA. He was hitting .289 with 22 home runs when the Diamondbacks brought him up. Fly ball, shallow right center. Francoeur says he has it. And 1 gone here in the bottom of the second. And that'll bring Nick Ahmed to the plate. Tomorrow morning, start your day with Flyers head coach Dave Haxtell. Live in the Bob studio. Send your questions at Bob on TCN and watch Breakfast on Broad. Weekday mornings from 6 until 8 over on the Comcast Network.
What are the odds of that? That your head coach is Haxtell and the GM is Hextall?
It's a busy time for those guys. I mean, we're getting close to training camp rolling around already. Ahmed takes a strike, 0-1.
Yeah, before you know it, those boys will be out there mucking and grinding.
Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. A liner down the left field line, and it is foul. 2-2.
Wow, what a play by that fan.
Gold gloves all over the place, Ben.
It's a really good play. So what I did, I reached over and I snagged it and
snapped it. Bam.
I don't need a glove.
More times than not, you do need a glove. Chopper foul.
Breaking ball just backed up on Aaron Nola right there. Cameron obviously wanted it down and away, just spun. Actually jammed Ahmed.
That one's over to third. Blanco fires across the diamond for the second out. Well, Aaron does need a quick inning here. With 2 away, Chase Anderson's coming up. The pitches that he threw in the first inning, the most he's thrown in an inning since his call up. So 2 away, and Anderson 4 for 33. There's a strike, and it's 0-1. To pitch. Curveball. And it remains 0-2. And a strike 3 called. So that was a much quicker inning for Aaron Nola against the bottom third. He retires them in order. He has set down 6 straight. We will head to the third after 11 pitches with the Phillies down 2-1. Go to the fans section for all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. All right, Ben, here we go. The question is, who was the co-MVP of the 2001 World Series with Randy Johnson? I think John DeSangro is making life easy for you on the final day of this 3-game series. We'll go to the top of the third. Phillies fans who have made their way out to Chase Field watch their club get a run in the second. And now at the top of the order coming up. Second time through against Anderson. Like a lot of pitchers, he's very successful numbers wise the first time through. Opposition hitting under 200 against him the first time through. And let's see if it changes here as the Phillies see him for a second time. No balls, one strike. Cesar singled his first time up.
He's also swung at the first pitch his first 2 times up.
Owen's out of play off the third base side. Were you a guy that swung at the first pitch a lot?
I did. I wasn't afraid to ambush somebody. What's funny is this is the exact same pattern that happened to lead off the game. Exact. 0-2, heater in, fouled off. And Cesar eventually worked the walk out of it. I mean, worked the base hit, I'm sorry. But so far it's been the exact same sequence.
That one's down the left field line. On the run is Romack, and it's out of his reach.
But yeah, I seem to do it more with a guy that had a good breaking ball. I would go up looking for that first pitch heater. I really would. I wasn't a very good breaking ball hitter. And you know, if I saw a first pitch heater that I liked, I was hacking.
Just a little low. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Came back with a changeup. That was awfully close.
Yes, it was.
Ground ball right side. Aaron Hill to his left is up with it. And Cesar's retired, 1 away. It's now time for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use the hashtag #PhillyPhotoDataStrongFan. And you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. Brought to you by T-Mobile.
Yeah, that little one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Looks like that little one is looking forward to see what everybody's eating in front of him. Blanco takes a strike. 0-1. Andres flied to right his first time up.
It's a good things to eat here, huh, Tom?
Concourse is loaded. 1-1.
You know, speaking of breaking balls, we were playing the Yankees. I was in Seattle and we faced Mike Mussino. Actually had a very good knuckle curve. Very good. And he threw a very good game against us.
That ball was well hit. It's not coming back, and the Phillies have just tied this ball game up. Andres Blanco with his 3rd home run of the season, and it's a 2-2 game.
Good night, Andres Blanco. Pretty swing.
Well, he just made a winner out of Holly Parker, who's won $200 in the McDonald's home run jackpot.
Way to go, Holly. First at bat, gets jammed. Hits a ball to right field. Andres looking for that. Drives it out to right field. Inciarte barely turns around and looks at it.
So a 2-2 ball game. 13th home run allowed by Chase Anderson. And Odubel bunts up the third base line. It's a good one. And Castillo's throw not in time. A bunt base hit for Odubel.
Ball's teetering on the cutout of the grass. Castillo's got to let that ball at least go foul. You're not going to get him at first.
Yeah, and it may not have gone foul. But your point is let it go.
It may not have.
Well, it's a GMC precision play of the game on this bunt.
It probably would not have, but again, why risk throwing the ball down the right field line? Next, you know, Odubel's at second, maybe even third base. Yeah. Put it in your pocket.
Yeah, I thought he would just let it go. So here's Howard, who struck out his first time up.
So getting back to the story, I was able to get a double off of Mike Mussino, and he threw me all heaters the whole game. In the back of my mind, I'm looking for this breaking ball, never got it. So years later, I'm in camp with the Yankees. I said, "Hey Moose, how come you never threw a breaking ball?" He goes, "Honestly, Ben, I didn't really feel I had to." And I I said, Moose, I appreciate your honesty. I really do.
So the man felt he could just blow a fastball by you.
Yeah. I said, I appreciate that, Mike. Appreciate your candor.
Howard taps it foul. It's 0-1.
If I have a knuckle curve like Moose had, I'd be using it. Not against me, obviously. I wasn't worthy.
Glad you at least got a double against him.
Yeah.
Curveball up high. 1 ball, 1 strike. Howard with 353 career home runs. Chase Anderson had no designs to throw that pitch right there. He was just trying to freeze everybody. Howard, Odubel. Two and 1. It does grind to a halt, though, when somebody's on base with him, doesn't it?
It's awful.
I mean, it's all part of him trying to control the running game, it seems. Let's see if Howard gets a fastball here with the count 2-1. He does not. A ground ball off the glove of Goldschmidt, picked up by Hill. They'll get Howard at first. That putout will go 3-4-3. And there are 2 away with a runner in scoring position for Jeff Francoeur.
Goldschmidt tried to make a play there, knowing Ryan Howard's speed. He tried to get to that ball and tried probably do a little too much there. Very fortunate that he ended up getting an out, but I think he wanted to turn 2 in the worst way.
Yeah, he was looking at Odubel's speed and thinking, all right, I got to get rid of this fast because it'll be an easy double play if I can get it to second base. Well, Francoeur singled and scored the first run for the Phils, a single to right field. He's got a chance to drive in one here with a runner at second base. Jeff with 3 hits now on this road trip.
Oh, my Lord.
Good numbers with runners in scoring position with 2 men down. Swing and a miss. Tapper, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. Duble's at second base. A base hit should score him. And Jeff Francoeur, who has driven in 35 this year.
Away, keep battling.
He does like his changeup. Look at the numbers. I thought we'd see more curveballs than changeups, but he does like his changeup. Anderson has 10 no decisions this year, which is the third most in baseball. Swing and a miss, and Francoeur strikes out on the fastball on the side. Is retired, but Andres Blanco has evened this ball game up with his third home run of the year. Boy, that was a pretty swing. It was a beautiful shot. So we're tied at 2 as we go to the bottom of the third. Means that Greg Murphy finds something to eat that's a little out of the ordinary. So, Murph, what have you found now?
Well, yeah, okay. For the second year in a row, the Arizona Diamondbacks have really, had a menu item that has taken the nation by storm. Last year it was the D-back dog, which was that corn dog stuffed with jalapeno cheese and all kinds of stuff. Came with some Tums. Well, this year they've got the churro dog. Yeah, I needed the Tums. It's a warm cinnamon churro in a glazed chocolate donut. And then it's got 3 scoops of frozen yogurt and chocolatey caramel sauce. I can't tilt it too much, or
frozen
I'm liable to lose it into the pool.
Just throw the ice cream on it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to attempt to eat this over the next inning and a half, 2 innings, 3 innings perhaps. And then I will not go swimming until I wait 30 minutes.
That's exactly right. Well, what a play by Ryan Howard on the Inciarte chopper. And there's one out here in the third.
Murph, who you kidding? That thing's going to be gone in 2 minutes.
Yeah, really. Good luck with it. Ben had a Choco Taco today.
I did have a Choco Taco.
I don't know if that was as good as the churro dog.
Excellent.
Ben, I do think that you would make light work of this. But
thank you, Murph, for not including me in that.
Yeah, I'm not a big sweets guy, so we'll find out.
I think you'll do just fine, Greg.
All right, thank you.
Can you ask for a certain yogurt? Can you get chocolate, or does that have to be vanilla?
No, you get what you get.
You get what you
yeah.
And you don't get upset.
There are no Tums with this one.
A.J. Pollock's the batter. Swing and a miss, and it's 0-1.
Right on it.
What I think you should do, Murph, is combine the dog from last year with that and have it like a meal, a feast.
They estimate this is 1,200 calories by itself.
That's not bad.
Really?
It's 90 minutes on the elliptical for you. Line drive at center fielder Odubel Herrera, and that's going to be in for a base hit. Second hit of the day for A.J. Pollock, who now has 135 hits on the season. And Goldschmidt's coming up. Goldschmidt had an RBI single his first time up against Nola.
Michael Barkan very surprised to hear that I had a Choco Taco. Back home in Philly, he said, "You had a Choco Taco?" I said, "Yes, I'm guilty."
I think you should be surprised that you only had one Choco Taco. Phillies try to set up to turn 2 and get out of this inning. Goldschmidt whacks it foul, and it's 0-1.
I'd like to ask A.J. Pollock where he likes to hit. Leadoff, obviously he's done a very good job of that the first 2 games. But I would have to think that hitting in front of Paul Goldschmidt, you're going to get a lot of pitches to hit. That's what made A-Rod, hitting in front of Junior when he came up with the Mariners. He got a lot more pitches to hit.
Breaking ball outside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Yeah, there are guys all around baseball that have thrived, whether it be hitting in front of or behind a certain power hitter or a productive hitter. And Goldschmidt certainly has been that. First in average, first in RBIs. And Pollock has reaped those rewards with 77 runs scored. It's second most in the National League. 77. And that's either being a leadoff hitter or being the number 2 hitter.
Right.
He's also stolen 27 bases as he inches off first.
Big play by Ryan Howard there to keep that ball. I thought the ball was going to get down the line.
On Enciarte?
On Enciarte.
Yeah, it's very good.
They very well could have first and second or first and third here.
Runner goes, pitches hit foul, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes.
I think Aaron Nole's having a tough time with that release point on that breaking ball. You saw him hang a few to Ahmed. Kind of actually got in on him. They backed up a lot. And then we see him spike a few to Goldschmidt. So I think he's either letting go too soon or holding on to it a little too long and burying that pitch.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that they wanted him to work on this year was making sure that the release point was proper. Certainly helped in his effort to win 10 games in the minor leagues. Pollock goes again. The pitch is fouled again. And the count remains 2-2. Well, you can afford to do a hit and run with 1 man down. Or if you got folks helping you out like that.
I do. I have some folks, some Philly folks that are out here in Arizona now. This is Jaden right next to me. He's cheering me on as I try and finish this. I've ventured into the donut portion, and I've kind of hit a wall on this point. Yeah. So we'll see what we can do.
That's how Adam Richmond does it in Men versus Food. He has people around him cheering him on.
That's right. It helps.
Another foul ball.
Can you cheer for me?
Say hey. Hey.
Murph, don't scare the poor fella.
I think I did.
Yeah.
I think I did. We're buds. Give me a high five. Give me a high five.
Left you hanging, Murphy. Left you hanging.
All right, back to the donut.
2 balls, 2 strikes. In the dirt again. Rupp blocks it to make it 3-2.
See, again, with that breaking ball, it's just that pitch nowhere even near the zone.
.97 strikeouts this year for Goldschmidt. To go along with 88 walks. But this has been a long at bat. This will be the 8th pitch of this at bat. Pollock goes, pitches a ball. Boy, that looked like a good pitch. Cameron Rupp thought it was a strike. Threw a strike to second base. I guess low. Phillies baseball is brought to you by WB Mason. You can't go wrong when you buy right. by your Delaware Valley Honda dealers. Hurry to your local Del Val Honda dealer or visit DelValHondaDealers.com. And by McDonald's. Double the love it at McDonald's with a double cheeseburger and small fry for just $2.50. McDonald's, I'm loving it. Well, a close pitch with a count 3-2 to Goldschmidt results in a walk. And now it brings Jake Lamb to the plate. Oh, they had Pollock running off the second base bag, but there was nobody in the vicinity.
Close pitch, in my opinion, should have resulted in a double play. He was off to the races.
And Nola turns back again. Pollock, we mentioned 27 steals. He's been caught 6 times. Fly ball center field. Odubel heading back. He's at the track. Pollock is tagging. The throw goes to second base. Goldschmidt on his way, and he gets there. So second and third, the runners advance with 2 men down. Boy, that ball really did carry.
Yeah, it did.
And now Castillo's coming up. Castillo grounded out his first time up. He obliterated his bat when he did it. So he's 0 for 1. After a 29 pitch first inning, Nola with just 12 in the second, and now this will be his 14th of this inning. That's in there for a strike. It's 0-1.
Nice pitch. You'd have to think that after having the bat blown up and basically falling back and was knocking over Cameron Rupp, he's very conscious of that pitch in right now. That's why that first pitch down and away to him. But that was an outstanding pitch.
Well, they continue to go down and away. Maybe they'll try to come in here with the count now 1-2. This has been an amazing run. 13 games. He has 8 home runs. 14 runs batted in. And you see the difference, the home run rate. He's hitting a home run every 14 at bats. It used to be he was a home run every 36 at bats. Now it was more his defense that cost him his job in Chicago. That little guy's got his game on. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Breaking ball, swung on and missed. Castillo's down swinging, and the side is retired. Could be the best breaking ball of the day for Aaron Nola. Picks up his second strikeout. He leaves 2 in scoring position. We'll head to the 4th with the game tied up at 2. like 3M Super Sticky Post-it notes, available in a world of colors and ideal for the most hard-to-stick surfaces. Personally delivered to your desktop for free. By who? But W.B. Mason. 2-2 ball game. We go to the top of the 4th inning. Murph, how we doing out there, buddy?
Oh, we're doing good. I would say I'm 2/3 of the way through. I got the churro.
Churro? How's the donut, by the way?
Excuse me for 1 second.
Oh, sorry about that.
The donut is good. It's probably my least favorite part, I'll be honest with you.
What kind of donut is it?
It's a chocolate glazed donut.
Oh.
I'm not a big donut guy, as you know. So I'm getting a lot of support on Twitter, though.
Oh, you are?
It's surprising how many folks have already eaten this and telling me about it.
Oh, really?
One guy said I'm going to hate myself in about an hour.
Yeah, for you, it'll probably be 20 minutes.
That is probably true. Don't come to me in the 5th.
Yeah. How much does it cost, by the way?
There you go.
There's a liner out toward right. That'll be a base hit for Cody Ashe. Ashe on his way to second. And he is there standing. His second double of the afternoon.
Tom, I'm not going to lie to you. I bought this and sat down, and Blanco hit his home run. And now the double by Ashe. So I'm thinking there's a connection.
I hope there is.
It's a rally churro.
I hope Galvis hits a home run right here. $8.50? $8.50?
$8.50 is right.
$8.50.
Yep.
That's more reasonable than the dog last year.
Yeah, that was $25 last year, and that was enormous. That was much more difficult than this.
Do they still sell that here?
Yes, they do.
Oh.
Murphy, I think you could use a big glass of cold whole milk.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Well, you know where I am.
You're gonna have to come back and get more money from Tom, though.
Thanks, Tom.
Is that the glazed donut? Or is that the chocolate glazed donut?
It is.
Yeah, it looks good.
Did you get your receipt, Murph?
Galvis loops it into center field. That'll drop in for a base hit. Ashe will stop at third. And the Phillies have first and third with nobody out here in the 4th inning. Maybe you should go get another one, Murph.
Yeah, that's not happening.
And now Cameron Rupp is coming up. He had a sac fly his first time up.
Nice to see the adjustments being made there. Again, string hits together. Freddie Galvis, not a very productive at bat at all. His first at bat, striking out with runners on second and third, but does a better job of staying within himself and just staying up the middle, keeping it simple. Good job by Freddie.
Well, and I think this is part of what we talked about, and this isn't an oddity. The second time through the order for Anderson, the numbers jump. I mean, for many pitchers, the numbers jump, but for Anderson, they do seem to jump.
Mr. Anderson.
Cameron Rupp, a sac fly his first time up. First time through the order, Anderson, the opposition, hitting .212. Second time through, .278. And then it gets even higher the third time through. And I mean, and again, that's not strange for pitchers, particularly young pitchers. .321 the third time through. Chopper right side. That'll get a run home. Rupp is doubled up. It'll be a 4-6-3 double play. But the Phillies take the lead. It's a 3-2 ball game. So no RBI for Cameron Rupp, but he does do his do enough to give the Phils the run in this inning. And that'll bring Aaron Nola to the plate.
And I'm sure you ask Chase Anderson, he'll gladly exchange a run for a double play there. Still being early enough in the ball game. Team's only down 1 run.
Fastball, 1 ball, 1 strike to Nola. Nolan's pulled foul, 1 ball, 2 strikes to Nola. That's nothing compared to what Murph's eating. Maybe he can move on to that after he's done with his churro dog. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Never really got into the churro. I mean, I'm like Murph. I'm not a big sweets guy, but it was just kind of an food.
All kind of sauces last night you could have used for them.
I know our friends in the production cavity really enjoyed them.
Russell had some, our statistician. 3 balls, 2 strikes to Nola. Chopper back toward the mound. Aaron Hill is up with it, and he throws him out. Side is retired, but the Phillies take the lead. You done? The last bite. Murph has finished the churro dog. He'll be on to a second one, so the Phils can get some more runs. They lead it by 1, 3-2, as we go to the bottom of the 4th here in Arizona. We'll try to take you. Visit buyatoyota.com to find out. Toyota, let's go places. By Jefferson, where health is all we do. Call 1-800-JEF now or visit jefferson.edu. And by Chevrolet, visit your local dealer at chevydealer.com. 3-2, Phillies on top. We move to the bottom of the 4th inning. Murph is done with his churro dog. Sounds like there's more plans for Murph to do some eating this weekend in Milwaukee.
That might be the next time I eat.
Well, after you eat what you're going to eat in Milwaukee, you may not eat again for another week.
We probably should rethink the travel day eating stunts. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe do it a little bit earlier in the series.
Man, I got to sit next to you.
Aaron Hill flied to left his first time up. That gentleman's eating fresh. There's a line drive base hit for Hill. So he's aboard. And Jamie Romack will be the batter. All right, what are you seeing right now from Aaron Nola? I mean, he's battling. There's no question about that.
I liked what I saw last inning. The breaking ball that he struck out Castillo with was the best breaking ball that he's thrown today. I like the fastballs down and away to the righties, locating that well. Of course, that last pitch there to Hill was elevated. He rifled it in the left.
That one's in there, 0-1. Swing and a miss. Maybe he's found that release point now for the breaking ball.
That's what I'm talking about.
Both Bob McClure and Pete Buchanan, like everybody else, have liked what they've seen from Noah from a competitive standpoint. I also like the way he's able to figure things out on the fly. It's not always the easiest thing to do for a pitcher, is to figure it out, particularly at the age of 22. To understand, all right, this is working, this isn't, so I got to try something else.
That's where I think the experience that he's had, especially being in the SEC. I mean, SEC, that's like minor league baseball. You know, it's such a great conference. I think he learned a lot there. Obviously LSU, a great program, but he can gather information from what he did there and how he was able to have so much success.
Fly ball, shallow center field. That's going to be a tough play. Odubel froze. He comes running in and he makes the catch. Boy, did he have to come a long way to track that one down. Look where he finished. He's on the edge of the infield dirt.
Well, Freddie wasn't going to get there, and you do have to play a little deeper here because the ball flies so much. But he did take a jab step back, but he does have some very good closing speed.
Well, one away, and here's Nick Ahmed. Ahmed grounded out to third. His first time up. Ahmed did something I never even heard of before. I don't know if you've heard of this. So he won a Gold Glove in the minor leagues from Rawlings. Rawlings, I guess, has a program where minor leaguers, the best guy at a particular position, wins a Gold Glove. I didn't know that.
Did not know it either.
So he, as a minor league shortstop, won a Gold Glove.
Interesting. But they don't get that gold patch.
I don't think they get the gold patch on their glove when they come up. I think we got to do it up here in the big leagues, in the show.
In 4A?
No balls, one strike to Ahmed. I take back what I said about Jim Wolf being a pitcher's umpire, at least today. Now, he's consistent to a certain extent. They're awfully close. It looked a little low.
No, it didn't.
Let's try to be politically correct. Trying to be nice. He is a pitcher's umpire, though, isn't he?
He's been known to give a couple.
I mean, his brother is a former pitcher.
Yes. He was never allowed to work the plate while Randy was pitching.
Which makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Off the hands. Ryan Howard says he has it. That's a good pitch. 2 outs. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 98 Phillies Fathead will be given out to all fans on Saturday, August 29th. The 13 by 26 inch removable wall graphic featuring Phillies logos and third baseman Maikel Franco. Tickets can be purchased anytime by going to Phillies.com. In fact, if you want to call, folks are standing by as we speak. Toyota Major League scoreboard. They're in the top of the 5th inning. The Reds lead the Padres 4-3. San Diego's gotten a 3-run home run from Matt Kemp in that game. Swing and a miss by Chase Anderson. All right, now you probably as a catcher saw that swing. Slow bat. I mean, would you keep firing fastballs here?
As long as he keeps locating right there, yes.
Tries to bunt. Nola says he has it. Side is retired. 1-3 on the putout. No runs. 1 hit. And 1 man left. We have played 4. We'll go to the 5th. Cesar Hernandez will lead it off. A quiz answer. All right, here we go. Who was the co-MVP of the 2001 World Series, Ben, with Randy Johnson?
Number 38, Kurt Schilling.
I thought you were going to answer Junior Spivey. That is correct. Kurt, in the 2001 World Championship, 21 in the third, 26 strikeouts. The 21 of the third innings of work. Log back on to Phillies.com to find out if you're the winner of a Phillies prize pack. And thanks for playing Jeep Stump the Fans. It's their lone World Championship. They have won the West 5 times. They won it the next year and then faced the Cardinals in the postseason. Cesar Hernandez will lead things off. Hernandez is 1 for 2. Breaks his bat. Grounds it back to the mound. Got a lot of bat shattering going on here. 1-3 on the putout.
Some firewood.
So he swung at the first pitch again. And here's Andres Blanco, who homered to tie the game in the third.
Now, when we did that game from the stands, we had the authenticator next to us. Now, in a situation like that, do they have to get all the pieces, put them back together, and then authenticate, or they just say, you know what, that's a lost cause?
I think that's a lost cause. I think if the bat is intact with just a crack in it, that's where you can authenticate it.
Gotcha.
I mean, maybe they'll. I could be speaking out of turn, but I don't think that they use anything like that. Unless somebody who wants to use firewood wanted it authenticated.
Yeah.
1-1 to Blanco. Back-to-back change-ups. 2 balls, 1 strike. Throws a curve. There it is.
M110.
Check swing, and it's 3-2.
We'd always call that the Milo model. M110. It looked like it actually read Milo.
You gotta loan that youngster your binoculars, then. And a strike 3 call.
Good changeup. Good changeup down and away there. Watch this pitch. Blanco knows it. Yep. When he throws a good one, it really does have a lot of movement on it. A lot of good movement. The one he struck out Freddie Galvis in the 2nd inning.
Odubel hits it back toward the middle. To his left is Ahmed. Boy, he hit that ball right on the nose. So a quick inning for Chase Anderson. The Phillies go down 1-2-3. It's the first 1-2-3 inning of the day. It's just an 8-pitch top of the 5th, and we'll go to the bottom of the 5th. Bank. With more than 6 million people in the greater Philadelphia region, there's ample opportunity to help. Build houses, volunteer, or be a mentor. Visit citizensbank.com/community to learn more. At Citizens Bank, we want to help you bank better. So the next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. Home half of the 5th inning. Phillies on top 3-2. And Aaron Nola, after a quick break, goes back to work against Ender Inciarte. So just like the Phillies having the top of the order up in their half of the 5th, that's exactly what the Diamondbacks do. Aaron has done a better job with first pitch strikes the second time through the order. First time through, he threw first pitch strike 4 times. The second time through, he's thrown a first pitch strike 8 of the 9 hitters, and now 9 of 10. Line drive, base hit for Inciarte. So he is aboard for the second time in this game.
And really could have 3 hits, with the exception of the good play by Ryan Howard on the ball down the line.
How about the top 3 guys in the order for the Diamondbacks? Inciarte, Pollock, and Goldschmidt. How about the number of stolen bases that those guys have? They have 57 between the 3 of them. 57 of the 99 for Arizona, and the 99 stolen bases are second in the National League. Curved ball. That one's in on the inside part of the plate. 0-1. Pollock is 2 for 2. Phillies bullpen doing a little stretching. There's Genmar Gomez, who hasn't worked in a few days. He's gotten some time to get his arm back healthy again. Luis Garcia the same. Ground ball to third. Going to be tough to double him up. Blanco bobbles, throws to first. Dug out by Howard in time for the first outs. Oof. That was really close. They at least got one.
I don't know.
Chip Hale is coming down the steps to then go up the steps in the dugout. I think they got him. By a hair, I think they got him.
Was the ball cleanly in Ryan Howard's glove, though?
Yeah, I think it was in. Yep. They may look at it. Glenn Sherlock came over. He said something to Chip Hale. Adrian Johnson made the call. Slow it down here a little bit. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it looks like he had it. Now, he put the other hand in. The ball was moving around. It's tough to tell. So Jim Wolf is going to go over and talk to Adrian Johnson and Bill Miller. I think what you mentioned is what they're looking at. That did Ryan Howard have control? I thought he had control of it, but we'll see what they say up in New York. They'll have a chance to review it. As it is right now, it's one man down with a runner at second base, but that could change.
But the throw itself did beat.
It did.
Pollock.
By what we saw, the throw beat Pollock. Every time Ryan Howard does that, sometimes I wonder. I wonder how he hasn't broken his hand or his finger getting it in there like that.
The glove is that big and shaped that way so you can get extension through the baseball. No really a reason to go in there with two hands.
Yeah, right there it looked like he had it before the foot was on the bag, and it looked like there was control right there. And he hadn't hit the bag as of yet. But we'll take it a little bit of time and look at this. We're over a minute already, almost a minute and a half. So they can slow it down and freeze it. And just to clean it up too, his foot was on the bag.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to wonder about that with some of these calls. It's unfortunate that Blanco bobbled that. I don't know if they would have been able to turn two anyway, but they would have definitely got the lead runner at second base and kept the double play in order. Aaron Nola throwing some pitches out on the mound. He's allowed to do that. Yeah, I think they're looking at the control part of it, Ben, because we're over 2 minutes now in this review. And they don't generally, when they're that easy to see whether the foot's on the bag or not, they don't generally take this long. Nola's thrown some pitches, so his arm has stayed warm. Wow, this is nearly 3 minutes. Keep showing it here at Chase Field, and you don't hear a reaction in the background. A lot of times you'll hear a reaction one way or another. So the fans, I think, are of the understanding that he's out, but they may not be under the understanding that they're looking at the control. I think he had it, but the fact that it's taken this long. There's a different look to slow-mo. Umpires have the headsets off, and he is out at first base. Well, that is a 3-minute, 27-second review. So the call stands. It's not confirmed. It stands. So we'll get the explanation, but we can just assume that they were looking at whether the ball was under control from Ryan Howard.
It's easier said than done from up here, but I don't know how to challenge that one. It's just,
yeah. I mean, it is the 5th inning. They're down by 1. So now Goldschmidt's up with a runner at second base. First base is open. But you've got a 1-run lead. Just got to be a little careful with him here. Down low and inside. 1 ball, no strikes. Goldschmidt singled and drove in a run his first time up. Walked in the 3rd. Ciarte back without any problem. Kickoff play again, and Inciarte is back again. This time it was Galvis that snuck in from behind. At the knees, 1 ball, 1 strike, 89 on that fastball. He's lived kind of today at 89, 90 for the most part.
He has gotten it up to 92.
But his command certainly has been better since that first inning when he threw 29 pitches.
Yes.
Out to right field, Francoeur, long run. It's slicing toward the line. It's going to drop for a base hit. And this game will be tied up. Francoeur misplays it, and Goldschmidt's on his way to third. It'll be an RBI for Paul Goldschmidt. It's a 3-3 game.
Ball's in the air an awful long time, but finds the right spot for it. And the way the ball comes off the bat, it's going to have a funny sideways spin on it. You see that ball get away there from Frenchie.
Well, that should be a double and an E9. They have scored a triple, which has been the pattern here. So an RBI triple, and it's a 3-3 game. Jake Lamb will be the batter. Lamb had an RBI his first time up on a ground out. He's also flied to center. Phillies played the infield in here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Each team with 3 runs, each team with 7 hits. And a loop out to left, a base hit. Goldschmidt will score, and the Diamondbacks have the lead. It's an RBI single for Jake Lamb. So it's a 4-3 ball game here in the 5th inning. And Wellington Castillo will be the hitter. Bob McClure walking slowly out to the mound.
That's probably the reason I would not have challenged, knowing that, listen, boys, you have a lot of at-bats left. If the situation does arise later in the game, you want to make sure you have that challenge. Now, it's not guaranteed that you're always going to have that challenge, but you have a team that scored 26 runs in the last 2 games. I would trust in that. But he felt he wanted to do it.
Yeah, and I think he thought, too, that, you know, once we get to the 7th inning, it's in the hands of the umpires anyway.
Yeah.
They just don't have to acknowledge the request, but they could still do it. I think the big play could be, and I don't know how you feel about this, is the bobble by Blanco. Whether they could have turned 2, that would have been tough to double Pollock up, even though the ball was hit sharply.
He would have at least gotten the lead runner, though.
Right.
He had man on first, 1 out.
Castillo has grounded back to the pitcher. He struck out his last time up. One ball, 1 strike. Inside, he ran that fastball in, and it's 2-1. Toyota Major League Scoreboard, the Mariners lead the Orioles 3-0. Iwakuma has a no-hitter through 6 innings. 78 pitches through 6 innings.
He's got the stuff to do it.
Yeah, a lot of people thought he may have been dealt before the trade deadline. To center field, Odubel Herrera comes in, makes the catch for the second out. And back to first base goes Lamb. So now 2 outs. Aaron Hill's coming up. Follow the Phillies wherever you are with MLB.com At Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com At Bat for your smartphone or tablet. You can also get it right now, and you can follow whether Iwakuma picks up the no-hitter or not. Aaron Hill singled his last time up, flied to left his first time up. That one's out toward left center field. That'll drop for a base hit. Lamb thinking about going to third. He's on his way. The throw by Herrera will allow Hill to attempt to go to second. He is safe at second base. Hernandez is pointing. They better watch it because Lamb's wandering down the third base line. He's going to head home, and time has been called. Time has been called, but the umpires did not signal it until he was 3/4 of the way down the third base line. Doug Eddings did not call time, but he was acting as if he did. I think Pete Maccannon's going to challenge this anyway. All right, so Chip Hale is content that time was called. And Bill Miller and Doug Eddings are going to review this. Yep. Right there, his hands did go up.
And Pete Maccannon wasting no time going to the challenge booth on this one. So middle infield, very emphatic in the fact that he was out at second base.
Yeah, Cesar turned his back on the play. Now I'm surprised that, I don't know if Andres Blanco may have asked Eddings for time or not, because I mean Cesar turned and started discussing with the second base umpire about the play. Bill Miller was right on it, and boy, he looks like he. Watch it here.
The players are running off the field already.
Yeah, he is out right there.
Umpires even haven't come out with a ruling, and the players are off the field.
Yeah, and they're not stopping him right now. Adrian Johnson just stopped Aaron Nolan, Freddie Galvis, and Andres Blanco. That did look pretty clear.
I don't think this one's going to take 3 minutes.
I don't think so either. So it looks like 2 runs will score for the D-backs here in the bottom of the 5th inning. They'll take the lead, but it doesn't look like any further damage against the Phils. And he is out at second base. Kind of comedic. Bill Miller turns around to signal to everybody, but there's nobody out on the field. 2 runs cross. We'll go to the 6th. Diamondbacks on top, 4-3. Is set to lead things off for the Phillies. And while he strolls to the plate, let's check in with Greg Murphy. Murph?
All right, Tom, thanks. As promised earlier in the game, we have selected the Data Strong fan photo of the game, and it comes from Larry W. Borden, and he says two of the biggest Phillies fans were very happy they got to meet Phillies broadcasters Tom McCarthy, Matt Stairs, and Ben Davis. That's a pretty good picture from the night that you guys were out behind the plate in the Diamond Club section at Citizens Bank Park. Reminder to fans, tweet your strongest fan photo to #PhillyPhoto, Data Strong Fan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast, all brought to you by T-Mobile.
It was a great night sitting in the first row watching that ball game. Ryan Howard leads it off. He is struck out and grounded out. By the way, the Major League Baseball has sent the email about the play where Howard was at first base as he pulls this one down the right field line. Inciarte is up with it. A strong throw to second, and Howard is safe at second base. Now, this is to your point, Ben. They're out of their challenge. That was a strong throw by Inciarte.
That's what I talked about earlier in the game. This guy he can fire it. And it's a very good tag by Ahmed. Quick. That's what you want your middle infielders to do on steals, on tag plays, throws from the outfield. You want to get the ball and throw it down as quickly as you can. Ahmed just decides not even to say, you know what, I'm going to get there in the air.
That was a nice scoop, boy.
The big fella going in head first. That was a heck of a tag.
Well, Jeff Francoeur is now the batter. Francoeur 1 for 2. Takes down and away, 1 ball, no strikes. But just to go back to the play where Blanco bobbled it and threw the one hopper to first, they were looking at whether Ryan Howard had full control. Major League Baseball, through their replay review, felt like he did have enough. 1 ball, no strikes, and there wasn't enough to overturn it. Hessler warming up for the pen. Two 2-0 to Francoeur as Howard leads off second. Aaron Nola hoping for a couple of runs here so he can go to work in the 6th inning with a lead again. And that one's sharply hit past the diving Ahmed into left field. Ryan Howard's just going to hold up at second base. He froze because the ball was on the line, and he just didn't want to take a chance. It's a single for Francoeur, his second one of the game. Runners on first and second for Cody Ashe.
That's going to do it. You know, you might say, how does a guy hit a single and you don't even advance a base? Well, it's the right play by Ryan Howard because Ahmed was very, very close to catching that. He knows his limitations, does Ryan Howard. The last thing he wants to do here is get thrown out at third base and be the first out of the inning.
Well, Chappelle makes a pitching change with nobody out here in the top of the 6th inning. And he'll go to the left-hander since Cody Ashe has 2 doubles already against Anderson. Decides to give him a little different view. 4-3. Diamondbacks on top of the Phillies. Chase Anderson is done for the day, responsible for the 2 base runners. Chip Hales decided that Cody Ashley had 2 really good swings against Chase Anderson, so he wasn't going to give him another opportunity. So he brings in the lefty Hessler. He's pitched in just 2 games so far and has 2 strikeouts. And here are the swings by Cody Ashley in his first 2 at-bats.
And both down the right field line. Pretty much a spitting image of these doubles. These hits here look the same. So probably the right move.
Cody trying to bunt and move the runners up. And it's 0-1.
And I say probably the right move for Chip Hale. But Anderson only had 74 pitches.
Cody lifts it down the left field line and out of play. So it's 0-2. In the dirt, Castillo blocks it. Genmar Gomez loosening up in the pen.
He's got to feel refreshed.
Sure does. Hessler has pitched at 3 different levels this year, single A, double A, triple A, before coming up here to the big leagues. And Cody gets the runners up. And now runners on second and third with 1 man down. 3 unassisted on that play. And now you've got the right-hander, or the switch hitter Freddie Galvis, batting right-handed, coming up. Toyota Major League Scoreboard, an update. Iwakuma has a no-hitter through 7. They're in the bottom of the 7th inning in Seattle. It's 3-0 Mariners.
I know Cody wants to hit another double there. But that's what happens when you don't strike out. You put a ball in play, something good could happen. Yeah, he didn't hit it real hard, but he still advanced the runners. That's what he was trying to do with that bunt attempt on the first pitch.
Galvis fouls it away. It's 0-1. Freddie singled his last time up left-handed and has also struck out today.
It's amazing that Hessler's pitched at every level this year.
In the dirt, 1 ball, 2 strikes. AAA pitched in 13 games. He allowed 8 earned runs in 13 2/3. AA, he pitched in 24 games and barely allowed anything. And then in single A in the California League, he pitched in 10 games and didn't allow a run. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Galvis. And Freddie taps it foul to stay alive. Freddie lines it into left field, a base hit. The game is tied. Francoeur will be held at third, and it's a 4-4 ball game. Galvis with his 2nd hit of the afternoon. Oh, and you talk about that ground ball by Ashley, that he didn't strike out, that he advanced the runners, and that helped the Phils get a run here.
And why I like this, yes, It's great that he got a hit, but he didn't take himself out of that at bat after the bad call by Jim Wolf. Fouled a pitch off, got something to his liking, base hit to left field. And the last thing you can do is get all upset and mope around home plate. It's a strike, it's over. Yeah, it's unfortunate that it got called on you. You still have a job to do, and that's what Freddie did.
Now Cameron Rupp with runners on first and third. Darren Ruff is in the on-deck circle to pinch hit for Aaron Nola. One ball, no strikes. Rupp hit into a double play his last time up. And he fights it off 1-1. Out toward right field. On the run is Inciarte. Out toward the track to the wall. It is gone! Opposite field. 3-run home run for Cameron Rupp. And the Phillies have taken the lead again. It's a 7-4 ball game.
Good night.
Man, did he crush that the other way. He is a strong dude.
4 RBIs on the day for Cameron Rupp. Hester loves his fastball, and he's used it a lot.
Well, Chip Hale is out to the mound. That's going to be it for Hessler. Darren Ruff has been introduced as a pinch hitter for the Phils. A 7-4 Phillies lead here in the top of the 6th with one man down. We've got another pitching change. We'll be back right after this. Fans on Tuesday, August 18th, when the Phillies take on the Toronto Blue Jays. If you need tickets, get them now by going to Phillies.com. Well, pitching change for the Arizona Diamondbacks, as David Hernandez will be the new pitcher. First time we're seeing him in this series. And Darren Ruff, already introduced as a pinch hitter, will stay in the game to bat against the righty. First pitch breaking ball is in there. It's 0-1. 21st game for Hernandez. 18 strikeouts and 18 innings of work. Check swing. Did he go? No, says Adrian Johnson.
And you can't burn Chase Utley here, bringing a lefty to face Hernandez. Can't have a pinch hit for the pinch hitter.
Broken bat, one hopper out to shortstop. Ahmed is up with it. And there are 2 outs.
I mean, you could, but Chase is the only lefty. So, something were to happen later in the ball game when they need him to hit.
Second baseman Cesar Hernandez.
And the other part of the storyline is Aaron Nola, 5 innings today. It's I don't want to say it's a rested bullpen, but there's certain guys that are rested. With the off day tomorrow, they can afford to go Genmar Gomez for probably 2. And then Luis Garcia for 1 or 2. And then Ken Giles to finish it up. Not the worst thing to get him out of here with a lead.
Yeah.
1 ball, no strikes to Cesar, who was 1 for 3 today. Single and 2 groundouts. Breaking ball, and it's 1-1.
For what the Diamondbacks offense has done, Aaron Nola's got to feel really happy with giving up the 4. I mean, obviously, you don't want to give up any, but 4 runs to that lineup that's hot as blazes right now.
He's also thankful that his catcher came to the game today. And you mentioned 4 RBIs. Don't forget the double play, which scored the run in the 4th inning, too, making the contact.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't get an RBI there. 2-1 pitch. Back toward the middle. A base hit for Cesar. It's his 2nd one of the game. Now, the 8th man to bat in the inning is Andres Blanco, and he's coming up.
Third baseman Andres Blanco.
Blanco homered back in the 3rd. He's also flied out and struck out.
How are the speed up rules going, Tom? Uncle.
Castillo out to chat with Hernandez.
See, when I put a 1 down, I throw a fastball. I put a 2 down, breaking pitch.
Oh, is that how it works? Way outside. 1 ball and no strikes.
See, that's a perfect example of David Hernandez being so quick to the plate that he doesn't give his arm a chance to catch up. You're going to miss on that side, his arm side, most of the time if you don't give your arm a chance to catch up.
There goes Hernandez. The pitch is hit back toward the middle off the foot of Hernandez, and it drops on the infield grass, and man, is he in pain. That ball was drilled by Blanco right off Hernandez's foot. It's a base hit. The Phillies will have 2 runners on base. The athletic trainer immediately comes out.
That's going to have an egg on it.
Oh man, that ball was.
Did it hit the ground first, or is it straight off the bat?
That's a good question. I don't think it hit the ground. If it did, it was a short hop.
Either way, that hurts.
Well, take a look at it. Did not hit the ground. That is straight on.
It almost looked like he tried to do that. Like he reached back with his foot there. Watch him here. See that? He tried to do that.
He went right off his Achilles.
Ow. And that's your landing foot. I don't know how. He's going to stay in this ball game. Probably because they're his runners out there. That's why he wants to stay in this ball game.
Chappelle is talking to Jim Wolf. If it is an injury, then the pitcher does have as much time as he needs to get ready. Yeah, he's going to exit.
I was thinking for a minute, you know, strictly from a hitter standpoint, I'm thinking that ball's got to get down. It's got to get down. You want David Hernandez to be okay, but if that ball is caught, it's an out because it went right off his ankle in the air. It would have been an out.
That's exactly right.
And that ball was in the air for a long time.
Well, Goldschmidt did. Now that you mention it, yeah, Goldschmidt went after it, probably thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Watch it again.
He 100% tried to redirect that ball.
Well, a pitching change. We're not sure who the Diamondbacks are bringing in. I don't know if they're sure just yet. We'll let you know when we return. You know, Phillies games are fun for a group, but did you know how charitable they can be? Groups of 25 or more are eligible for fundraising opportunities that benefit their designated cause. It's a great way to raise funds and awareness. Learn more at Phillies.com/group tickets. Well, we have spent enough time away that we found out who the new pitcher was. So did the Diamondbacks. And that new pitcher is already warmed up and ready to go. There's also a new infielder. Chris Owings takes over at second base as part of this double switch. Josh Colmenter into the game for the second time in this series. 28th game overall. And he will face Odubel Herrera with runners on first and second and 2 outs here in the top of the 6th. 74 miles an hour. And it's 0-1. What are those pitches? They're coming in at 78 and 81 miles an hour. They're not curveballs. Are they changeups?
I think they.
Or are they fastballs?
Maybe it's a cutter. Because his fastball is only about 84, 85.
No, it is. But those are even lighter than usual. Ground ball right side. Goldschmidt gobbles it up, and the inning is over. But the Phils score 4 runs in the inning. Cameron Rupp's 3-run home run, the big blow. Opposite way. Somebody knew it was gone off the bat. Phillies fans could celebrate. It's a 7-4 Phillies lead. Further, and by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. Last of the 6th inning, the Phillies on top by 3, 7-4. Aaron Nola's day is done after 5. Darren Ruff came on a pinch hit for him. So he goes 5 innings, allows 9 hits and 4 runs. And Genmar Gomez will be the new pitcher. 49th game for Gomez. And he's 1-2 with an earned run average of 2.08. So Jamie Romack will lead it off. It'll be Romack, Ahmed, and then Chris Owings here in the home 6th inning. And Romack is 0 for 2. He's flied to right. He's also flied to center field. Just 1 for 5 here in the big leagues. 22 home runs in AAA. Now, in Reno, in the Pacific Coast League, there's certain cities where the ball does fly a little bit, but 22 home runs is a pretty good amount at this point in the season.
That's still a lot.
Signed as a minor league free agent by the Diamondbacks. There's a sinker, swung on and missed. It's 0-1.
A pinch hit double the other night.
Genmar is, well, I'm not saying he's in contact with the rubber, but he's at least close to it.
He's on that big mound in the middle of the field, so that's good. It's good enough for me, Tom.
Oh, an update. Iwakuma has the no-hitter through 8, and he's going to work in the top of the 9th inning. His pitch count was manageable after 8 innings. 107 pitches after 8 innings. The 1-1, broken bat, looper out to left. Here comes Ashe, and he's not going to be able to get it. Galvis picks it up, and Romack's aboard with a leadoff single here in the 6th inning.
Shame. Good pitch. Good result. And you get a broken bat, jam, shot out to left field. Good hustle out there by Freddie as well. Yes, he's trying to get to that baseball, but to be there and make sure Romack doesn't get to second.
Well, now Nick Ahmed, who grounded out and had popped out in his first 2 at-bats. Phillies trying to win their 4th game on this road trip. They won 3 in San Diego, lost the first 2 here in Arizona. Fastball in there, 0-1. Just missed outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Not a bad spot with that pitch from Genmar. Chopper left side. Blanco will cut it off. They get 1 at second. Hernandez's throw to first, not in time. 5-4 on the putout. Fielder's choice, and that brings Owings to the plate. Owings up for the first time.
Romack going in hard. Second base. Ball wasn't hit terribly hard. Owings could run. I'm not saying they would have gotten him if Cesar had a clean throw to first base. He doesn't look too happy with himself, so maybe he thinks that's a play they should have completed.
Yeah, I wonder if he even had a grip on that baseball the way it left his hand. Oh, he's hitting .231. He's so far 4 for 10 in this series. Foul tip, and it's 0-1. Iwakuma, by the way, has 2 outs in the 9th inning facing Gerardo Parra. And he has just thrown a no-hitter for the Seattle Mariners. Got Parra to fly out to center field. They're celebrating in Japan today.
That is awesome.
He wins it 3-0.
No hit the O's. They've been swinging the bats pretty good lately. So
low and in. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The Orioles are now 5 games out in the American League East. An American League East that has become one of the more interesting divisions in baseball, if only because of the Toronto Blue Jays, who have won 9 consecutive games. And they are now 10 games over 500. Ground ball right side. That'll get into right field, a base hit. Stopping at second is Ahmed. So Owings has his 5th hit of the series. Iwakuma, by the way, 116 pitches. And here comes Ender Inciarte. Speaking of the Blue Jays, all right, so we were up in Toronto on the 28th and 29th of July. They were 7 games back on the 28th of July. They were 50-50. The Phillies beat them. They dropped to 50-51. And they've won 12 of 13, and they're now just a half game out in the American League East. They got fans everywhere.
They're really good at hitting.
You think? Arte takes down and away 1-0. I mean, we were there when the Tulowitzki trade came down. He didn't play game 1. And there was this huge media scrum talking to Jose Bautista. He did not seem happy about the deal because Reyes was a friend of his, and he felt like they needed pitching. Well, Tulowitzki, when he's in the lineup, they haven't lost yet. And they've only lost 1 game while he's been hanging around. Outside again, 2-0.
Oh, and by the way, they did get some pitching. A left-hander by the name of...
is it Price?
Oh, yeah, David Price.
Yeah. So there you go. Through the 28th of July, that's after the Phillies beat them in game 1. And then when Tulowitzki was put in the lineup, they're 12-1. ERA 1.88. Fly ball left field. Cody Ashe through the sunshine goes back, makes the catch for the second out. So 2 away.
I'll tell you what, the Yankees ball club, yes, they're good, but I wouldn't say I predicted this to happen, but you have a veteran-laden lineup like that, guys. It's an older ball club. Guys get worn down. They get tired.
The offense is struggling right now. The pitching hasn't really been the issue for the Yankees. It's been their offense. Ellsbury, Gardner, A-Rod, they're all in sort of offensive funks right now. But they still have, I believe, 10 games against each other before the end of the year. That's a lot. Pollock takes inside. 1 ball, no strikes.
It's the guy you want. It's hard to say that about a guy hitting .314.
He represents the tying run. To the right side. Hernandez has it. He better hurry, and does. And the side is retired. No runs, 2 hits, 2 men left. Gomez, a scoreless 6th, and we'll head to the 7th. Well, time now for your Delaware Valley Honda dealers game summary. Cameron Rupp has been a big part of the storyline today. He has a 3-run home run and a sac fly. And he's helped the Phils to a 7-4 lead. Aaron Nola, pitcher of record on the winning side right now. He was lifted after 5. Chase Anderson is charged with 5 earned runs, so he's the pitcher of record on the losing side for the D-backs. Ryan Howard leads it off against Josh Colmenter as we start the 7th.
Ryan led off the last inning with a double, get that rally started.
Fouls that one off Castillo, and it's 1-1. .24 doubles for Ryan Howard. He's exceeded his numbers from last year. That's a good sign. There's a foul ball. 2-2. Howard fights it off out to shortstop, and Ahmed makes the play. And Jeff Francoeur, who also has a couple hits here today, will come to the plate. I know we've talked about this before, but every time you see Jeff Francoeur come up with another 2-hit game, you wonder, does he deserve more playing time? You know, and Matt's talked about this. Matt thinks he's in the perfect role. You know, playing every once in a while. Started today against a righty, but mostly against lefties. But his average is a .278 with 10 homers and 35 runs batted in. I know you don't necessarily think of him as your future in the outfield, as he dribbles that one in front of the plate. But does he deserve more time?
You know, if I'm managing the ball club, I know you want to develop guys and see what they can or cannot do, but bottom line is he's hitting. You know, hitting balls hard. 10 homers, 13 doubles. I'd like to see him. We know that the right field he plays, and I'd like to see him get more playing time.
Yeah, you wonder, and again, they've managed him really well this year. I mean, and maybe they're not overexposing his abilities anymore, but he just seems to be productive every time he's out there in one way, shape, or form.
I think if you do start to get overexposed, then
you sit him.
You sit him.
Yeah. No balls, 1 strike to Ashe. Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike to Cody. Cody is 2 for 3 today. Well, whatever the decision is, he's earned a chance not only here in Philadelphia, but somewhere, if it's not in Philly, next year.
Yeah.
Ashe grounds out, so the side is retired in order. That means Jeff Francoeur and the rest of the Phils will go back to work after we stretch here at Chase Fields.
All right, fans, it's time.
In a food coma.
Well, every time the Phillies pitchers retire the opposition 1-2-3, Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phils. Goldschmidt loops one down the right field line again. Same spot as before. He got a triple the last time. This time a double. So he's a home run shy of the cycle.
Identical.
Except Francoeur played it a little differently this time.
He didn't want to leave that one in the hands of the official scorer. That's amazing. I mean, literally in the same spot. He has 3 hits tonight. Remember the first hit he had in the first inning to score a run was a little squirter through that hole between first and second. And then 2 Texas Leaguers.
There's a strike and it's 0-1.
But good hitters get those hits. They do.
You imagine if he eventually homers in the game and they go back in another couple of days and they protest the triple and Major League Baseball looks at it and says, yeah, that should be a double and an error. Over to shortstop, scooped up by Galvis. Throws out Lamb. Over to third goes Goldschmidt. 6-3 on the putout. And one away here in the 7th. You got Garcia and Araujo warming in the pen.
A good play on a tough hop. I think Araujo's up just in case Peralta pinch hits. But that was a tricky play there. Off the side of the mound. Freddie going to get the short hop here. Watch this hop. Oof. Stays with it, makes a good throw to first base. You never know the way the ball's going to spin off the mound like that.
So here's Castillo. He's 0 for 3. They've held him in check today. The infield back. Taps it foul. Saltalamacchia is out in the on-deck circle to potentially pinch hit. That's because Colementer's spot is due up. Runs outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Daniel Hudson is the right-hander warming up in the pen for the Diamondbacks. Got a chance to put him away right here. There's one happy little guy right there. Mom's wondering, oh man, that ball's going to be thrown somewhere.
In my house,
in my house.
Something.
Another one foul. And it remains 1-2. What do you do with it? There it is. Good play by Rupp. He slides off to his right and blocks it. 2-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Each team has had base runners today. They've combined for 25 hits in this ball game. Gomez just stepped off, and Rupp will run out. Out towards center field. Odubel coming on. Goldschmidt tags. Odubel's got it, and he'll let it sail. And it's a sacrifice fly, and it's now a 7-5 ball game. So an RBI for Castillo. A reminder, when the Phillies take on the San Diego Padres, all fans 14 and under will receive the ShopRite back to school lunch bag. There it is right there. You can take a peek at it, or your tickets by going to Phillies.com.
Hard to believe. School's going to be starting soon.
Hard to believe. So here is Saltalamacchia with the bases empty. Goldschmidt scores his second run of the day, so he has 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored, and 3 hits for the D-backs. Pitches outside, 1 ball, no strikes. Little tapper foul, 2-1. Out to center field. Herrera ventures back. And after a little bit of a hop, he makes the catch. Side is retired. A run does score after the leadoff double by Goldschmidt. 2 innings, 1 run for Genmar Gomez. On to the 8th with the Phils up by 2. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop Nissan.com. And buy the Pennsylvania Lottery. Benefits older Pennsylvanians every day. Top of the 8th inning, 7-5 in favor of the Phils. And Daniel Hudson is the new pitcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So he's coming on to face Freddie Galvis, Cameron Rupp. And then the pitcher's spot. Luis Garcia loosening up again in the bullpen for the Phils, so Gomez will be pinch hit for. And you figure Garcia will pitch the 8th inning before Ken Giles pitches the 9th. Hudson a 4.18 earned run average. We'll face Galvis, who today is 2 for 3 with an RBI and a run scored.
To see him add and get that run back here.
Way inside, 1-0. Hudson's a guy that does bring it. He used to be in the upper 90s. That one there is at 95 miles an hour.
Freddie almost lost his kneecaps.
Yeah, he did have to do a little dancing on that one. In there, 1 ball, 1 strike. To the right side, Goldschmidt will field it and take it right to the bag, so 1 away. Things have calmed down for the Diamondbacks pitchers. They've retired 5 straight. Camera erupts coming up. It's time for the Major League Notebook. Murph.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. Brought to you by St. Joseph's University. And the Phillies are going to see the Miami Marlins next week down there in Florida, but they probably won't see Giancarlo Stanton, who's still working his way back from that broken hamate bone in his hand. He is swinging off a tee, and just yesterday started shagging some fly balls during batting practice, but they say that's all so far, as it's been a slow recovery for Stanton. They do hope that he'll take some live batting practice. As Cameron pops that one down the right field line. Take some live batting practice pretty soon, but you would imagine after that he's going to have a rehab stint. So the Phils probably won't see him next weekend when they're down there in Florida. And you already talked about Seattle's win today. Well, how about last night? When Seattle won late last night over Baltimore, that marked the 15th home team that won a game yesterday. All 15 teams in Major League Baseball yesterday won who were at home. It's the first time in the history of Major League Baseball that
incredible.
All home teams, all 15 home teams, won a baseball game. The last time they got close to that, the teams were 12-0 at home, and that was back in 1914. So it's been over 100 years that it's been even close, but all 15 teams won yesterday, and set a little bit of Major League Baseball history as well. Guys?
Was there? We were talking about this today. Wasn't there a time last year where all the road teams won?
There was, but it was only 8 road teams that were in action. I think it was a Monday.
Okay.
And all 8 road teams won, but and that was the first time that had ever happened. But think about that, 15 home teams. Although I thought that would have happened. At some
I would have
point.
thought it would have happened at some point.
But it hadn't.
Heck, we never would have imagined you would have eaten a churro dog. But
This is true. Things just have a
all
way of
happens
unfolding.
in 24-hour period.
Yeah, and by the way, where I was on the phone with my cardiologist and and my personal trainer.
Why? Because they wanted one?
Yes, I'm sending them back home to everybody.
Murph, remember, it's all mental.
Yes, it is.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Brown. Dominic hasn't been feeling well the last couple of days. That's why he hasn't been in the lineup. Fouls it off. Last year, here's Murph with the corn dog. That took a little longer. This one you finished with a smile, by the way. Last year, I don't think you finished with a smile. You're more of a dessert guy. That's where Ben's going next year.
Do some damage up there.
Swing and a miss. Brown is struck out. Ben, you went up there. They would never have that promotion ever again. You wouldn't learn them. Phillies go down in order. Oh, man. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. Feeling kind of hungry. Play of the game. As it turns out, this was a really big play by Cody Ashley.
It was a very good play out in the alleyway. Cody getting there. I thought the ball was going to end up landing, but Cody goes to a slide, secures the ball. Very good catch. And that is your Hyundai defensive play of the game, presented by your local Hyundai dealers.
Luis Garcia will take over in the bottom of the 8th. The reason we say that was such a big play because it ended the first. There was a runner at third when he made the catch. That was Goldschmidt. And who knows what that inning would have looked like for Aaron Nola. He had allowed 2. He could have allowed a whole lot more. The ball is rifled into right field by Romack. Leadoff single here in the 8th inning. It brings the tying run to the plate. Nick Ahmed. For Genmar Gomez, 2 innings, 1 run. He's charged with 3 hits. Ahmed today is 0 for 3. Back toward the middle, knocked down by Garcia. They'll get out at first. I think that ball hit his glove. I think he's okay. Freddie Galvis is coming over just to make sure. So 1-3 on the putout. I think he may have saved the base hit with that play too.
Yeah.
Ball was hit pretty hard.
In the heel of the glove there, he'll be fine.
Now Owings, who's 1 for 1. He came on as part of a double switch and singled in his only at bat, single to right. .96 on that fastball from Luis. Last time he worked was Saturday, Garcia, against the San Diego Padres. Wow, did that have some movement?
Yeah, he is well rested.
Well, and considering where he was before that, he and Gomez, and they were fine, but they had been working a lot. The Phillies were winning a lot of games. They were plus situations, so those guys were in toward the end of the ball game. Two.
Love to see him dot a fastball down and away right here.
Goes with the slider, and it's hit foul.
It just has to be better than that. 0-2. Pitch kind of rolling up there. Trust your catcher. If you do spike it, throw in the dirt, that Cameron Rupp's going to be able to get down and block it. You can't throw a hanger like that to a good hitting ball club, especially in this situation.
Opposite way. Francoeur on the run. It's going to go over his head and go to the wall. This will be a 1-run game. Owings on his way to second base will get there. An RBI double. It's 7-6. So he's 2 for 2 and is now 6 for 12 in this series. Ken Giles is stretching out in the bullpen. And he tried to dot it.
That pitch actually not too bad. Surprised Owens was able to hit that ball down the right field line. Pitch down and in. And hit it hard.
Well, Bob McClure out to talk to Luis Garcia. This is not a stall tactic to get Giles up. Giles is just stretching in the pen. They're just discussing the approach against Inciarte. Inciarte today has scored 2 runs. He's 2 for 4. This is one of those series that Phillies get a win here. You just want to sprint out of town and be thankful you're not facing these guys again. At least at this point, the way they're swinging right now.
Yeah. Inciarte looks very content. Let the ball get deep. Spray it to left field. Bob McClure went out there and said, hey, let's see if we can crowd this guy a little bit. I know you never want to get beat late in ball games till you pull side, but he looks like he just wants to spray it to that side.
There's lead off second. Runner leads off second. Garcia takes a turn back. Slices it foul. That one ran inside. 96 on a fastball. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Well, Giles is starting to throw in the bullpen for the Phils just to loosen up. He went. That was a wicked pitch right there. It's 1-2. That's the one you wanted in the last at bat, right?
It is the one I wanted. I mean, that's a hard one. Inciarte not picking up the rotation on it, that's for sure.
Rupp and Luis Garcia have to have a conversation now. And Luis, I guess, tells him what he wants to throw. When you go out, are you talking about more than one pitch out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just telling him, hey, I think this is the best pitch in this situation, and then get both sides. But you got to make sure your pitcher has 100% conviction in what he's going to throw.
That one's hit sharply, snared on one hop by Ryan Howard. Garcia didn't get there, and he's safe at first base. Garcia did not leave the mound quick enough, and that'll go down as an infield hit right now. Pete McCannon's up on the top step. Now the tying run's over at third. The go-ahead run is at first. Inciarte got his foot in there.
Clearly safe. He was motoring.
Third hit of the day for Inciarte. Now, if he would have left right away, they would have had him. It would have been close, but they would have had him.
It would have been close, but they definitely would have had him.
Here's A.J. Pollock with runners on first and third. Still one man down.
Two fast guys on first base. Garcia can tend to be very slow to home plate, but I still think, especially with Cameron Rupp's arm, I still think you throw through here to second base. If they do decide to let Owings try and score from third, then you can always come in, either Freddie or Cesar, whoever's taking that throw, cut the throw off and make the relay back to home plate.
Pollock is 2 for 4 with a run scored in today's ball game. Waves at the slider. The ball gets away. NCRT is going to try to go, and they do cut it off. I think if they let that throw go through, they may have had him.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah, he would have been out.
But yeah.
Well, Cesar is up in front of the bag there.
Yeah, but I think that ball at the worst short hops Cesar, and I still think he can make that tag play on NCRT.
All right, so now they play the infield in, so that's problematic if the ball's hit hard because it could score 2 if it gets through. Again in the dirt, 1 ball, 1 strike. 7-4 was exciting for the Phils, but the way this game was going, you wondered if that was going to be enough against the D-backs team that has pounded out 15 hits here this afternoon. And Goldschmidt's on deck. Over to second base. Runners coming home. Hernandez's throw to the plate. He is out at home plate. Because it's an infield play, there's no question or no problems with Rule 7.13. The base runner also had a clear path to slide. Chip Hale is asking Jim Wolf to hold for a moment. We're in the 8th inning. Chip Hale can request a replay. And he's coming out to talk to Jim Wolf.
From the naked eye, I don't know how he called him out here. Cesar throws it to the wrong side of home plate and a little short, but
can't tell there whether Rupp has already tagged him though, Ben, before the foot hit the plate.
Well, we had a good angle from up here in the booth.
All right, take a look right there. Yeah, he's high in the air. I can't tell whether he's tagged or not. You know what I mean? The front foot is high in the air. It hadn't hit the plate when the turn of Rupp's body came through. Watch it here. Again, you can't tell whether he has the tag or not, or if his foot's on the plate.
Because his right leg or his left leg's in the air.
Correct. And then it's blocked. Yeah, he could be tagged by there at that point.
Well, I don't know. That view there looked like he may have gotten in there.
I don't know how you can tell. That's my thing. Because the body turns and it sort of blocks your angle. I mean, he's on him, but is he already on the plate? You know, that's the thing. And did the foot's over the plate initially. So is he on him when the foot's over the plate? Like right there, the foot's over the plate. Has he tagged him right there? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
The foot's not on the plate yet. It's still up in the air. Now it's on it.
I don't think the left foot ever gets down. I think the right foot is the one that ends up.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think.
Well, we'll let New York figure this one out, because it doesn't look like there's enough to overturn it unless they have something that they can take a peek at. But you're right, the throw was on the wrong side of the plate, and Cameron had to dig it out a little bit too and then turn.
Correct.
I think the question is the foot, is the left foot, whether that did hit the plate or if we're looking at the back leg. Take another look. Slowing it down. Look how high that foot is. And Rupp stops the other foot. See there, he's on the plate, but he's tagged. He's out.
I hope you're right.
He's out, or it's not clear enough to say whether he's safe.
We seemingly say that every time on every challenge.
Yeah.
Is there enough evidence to overturn it?
I'll tell you what. You know how hard it is to be an umpire?
Huh.
I mean, to me, that's a good call by Jim Wolf. But it is so close.
you see Jim Wolf kind of take his time to really look at it and say, all right, what did I just see?
Yeah, see, his foot's not on the plate there, and is the tag on him. Now he's blocking the other foot. We are more than 3 minutes into this review when it began. It's out of the umpire's hands here. It's all in the hands of the folks in New York. I guess this is one of those where we can say your guess is as good as ours. Now you're thinking safe.
Interesting this view. I just can't really tell if his left. So he slides
with his right foot going forward above the plate.
He slides on his right cheek, and his left foot's in the air. I can't tell if the left foot gets down onto the plate or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think it did.
I don't think it did.
And I think Rupp did a good job of pushing the other foot away. There we go. I think they got it right. I'm not saying it just because that's the call. I think they got it right. I think in today's day and age, where you can't block the plate, Cameron Rupp blocked it when he was allowed to. So the call stands. It's not confirmed. It stands. So that means there's no evidence to overturn the initial call. And Luis Garcia is being lifted for Ken Giles. So Pete Buchanan's looking for a strikeout here. So he's bringing in Ken Giles. A pitching change here in the bottom of the 8th inning with the Phillies on top by a hair, 7-6. They just had a play at the plate that was reviewed, and the call stood. Watch it again here. The ball to Hernandez at second. Hit hard. Throws the ball on the wrong side of the plate, but Cameron Rupp is able to get back. And Owings is called out. Now this is at the same time. Different shots, but at the same time. His foot's not on the plate, his front foot. And it's elevated on the left side as well. And I think the tag is on the cheek.
Listen, that's a great play by Cameron Rupp. Because the throw, to be honest, it wasn't a good throw.
Right. He's telling Jim Wolf that. I reached over. I had to pick that ball.
Jim, did you ever see a sweep tag that quick?
Well, here's Paul Goldschmidt, who is a home run away from the cycle here this afternoon. And he's got runners on first and third. With 2 men down, Ken Giles is the pitcher. Slider in there, 0-1. Giles, who went to college at Yavapai here in Arizona. He had a bunch of people that were talking to him on day one here in Phoenix. Another slider. This one misses. 1 ball, 1 strike. Yavapai is in Prescott, Arizona. Aaron Hill has 2 cycles. The last one coming on the 29th of June, 2012. Fastball upstairs at 98 miles an hour. Numbers for Ken: 6 saves. And this is, of course, a save situation, but it's going to have to be a 4-out save situation.
Why not? Off day tomorrow. Hasn't pitched in the first 2 games. Good opportunity. Need a strikeout.
Another good slider. 2-2. Two balls, 2 strikes with runners at first and third. Outside 3-2. Lamb is on deck.
Come on, Kenny.
Runner will be off from first base. And the 3-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He got him. He went fishing for a slider, and Ken Giles gets the strikeout he needs, and the Phillies maintain a lead. 1 run, 3 hits, 2 men left, and a nasty pitch to wrap up the bottom of the 8th. Week of camp, plus Derek Gunn and Reuben Frank will discuss all the key storylines from Eagles training camp and Tom Brady's court hearing with the NFL. Watch Quick Slants tonight at 7, presented by Nissan, only on Comcast Sportsnet. Along with Ben Davis and Greg Murphy, I'm Tom McCarthy. Phillies lead at 7-6. We go to the top of the 9th inning. And top of the order is going to lead it off. It'll be Cesar Hernandez who starts things off against Daniel Hudson, who pitched a scoreless 8th inning. First pitch cuts outside. 1 ball, no strikes.
Sure could use another run here.
Yes. "13 runs combined, 28 hits combined." Cesar lifts it in the air to center. Pollock ventures back. And 1 out. Andres Blanco's coming up. He's had a good day offensively.
Third baseman Andres Blanco.
A home run, a single.
And an ankle.
Yeah, he hit one right back to the box that knocked David Hernandez out of the game. His last time up. Change up outside.
Hudson likes his changeup. And for a guy that's a mid-90s guy, he's got a good one.
Popped it up. Shortstop side. Ahmed is under it. And now 2 outs. And here is Odubel Herrera, who has a bunt single today. He's 1 for 4.
Odubel hasn't looked all that good this series against the Diamondbacks.
No, in fact, the bunt base hit there earlier in the game probably relaxed him a little bit because his swings have been a little off. There have been a couple of balls he's hit well, but not the way he was swinging it. He takes a strike. 0-1.
Really pulling his head off.
Yeah, that was a swing and a miss right there. That wasn't even a foul tip.
But his head, you can see he got down into the zone. His head just completely off the ball. Watch his head here. Where are you looking? He's going down the right field line.
He may have got a piece of it, but either way, you're right. The whole body was, the upper body was gone. He is struck out. Side is retired with relative ease for Hudson. 1, 2, 3 go the Phils. We'll go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Lamb will lead it off against Ken Giles.
Here in the final game of this series versus the Diamondbacks, they lead at 7-6 as we head to the bottom of the 9th. And when the Phils are all done here, an off day tomorrow, and then a weekend series in Milwaukee against the Brewers. Here's the pitching matchup. Adam Morgan will take the ball on Friday night. He'll be faced by Willie Peralta, and then on Saturday at 7:10 Eastern time, it's going to be Jerome Williams taking the ball against Jimmy Nelson, and Aaron Harang will get the ball on Sunday 2:10 Eastern time against Taylor Youngman. Guys.
All right. Well, and they'll face a Brewers team that is going to be without their general manager. Doug Melvin has stepped aside, as Murph told you yesterday. Brewers are in the basement in the Central, 48 and 66. There's a chopper right side. Hernandez is up with it. One away. So Giles, who's gotten 2 outs so far, needs 2 more to record the save.
The only other time we saw him in a save situation, come in and get it out in the 8th, and then come back in the 9th, we saw that velocity go from 99 to 100 down to 94, 95.
And after that game, Pete Mackanin said it wasn't really a test to do that. He said because he's going to need to do it. But he's going to have to throw more strikes. He said he just can't fiddle around as much as he did that day. Not that he was doing it intentionally, but.
Fastball command.
Castillo's the batter. Takes low, 1-0. David Peralta's come in the on-deck circle for the Diamondbacks. Fly ball center field. Odubel's there. He got out toward the end of the bat. And there are 2 outs.
That pitch there at 96.
So 2 away, and here comes Peralta, who's had a whale of a series, even though he hasn't played today. 5 for 9, 7 RBIs. Guy who was originally signed by the St. Louis Cardinals as a pitcher, but after 2 arm surgeries, he went back home to Venezuela and taught himself how to be an outfielder. And now he's opened up eyes and it's turned out to be a heck of a player. And he chops one right side under the glove of Hernandez. Well, he just didn't go after that aggressively enough. And a base, well, that should be an error, but we'll see how they score it.
That'll be a base hit all the way around.
You think so?
Yeah. They already put it on the board. Ball seemed to just pick up top spin.
Yeah, I guess that's what it was. He didn't get to it. See, right there was a slight hesitation. So they have scored it a hit. And the batter will be Romack, who has 2 hits today, 2 for 4. Swing and a miss. 96 on that fastball. It's 0-1.
Nice play, Cameron.
Trying to keep the tying run out of scoring position here.
That's why it's so key.
Had himself a good slider here so far.
Tell you what, Peralta at first base, he's the tying run, and he's got such a small lead. Now, Dave McKay just whispered something in his ear. I'd probably say, hey, you got to get off. Ball in the gap, you have to score. Although the outfielders are deep, but he's barely off the bag.
1 ball, 2 strikes. And the dirt again blocked by a Rupp, and it's 2-2. Giles is set to go. The 2-2 pitch. Check swing. Did he go? He did not, says Adrian Johnson. And Ken Giles, I think, is wondering, should that have been called a strike?
He reacted like it was a strike. Cameron Rupp pumped his fist like it was a strike.
Maybe a little high. Oh, man, that's close.
Do a 3-2 slider to Goldschmidt.
Runner will be off for first base. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs here in the bottom of the 9th inning. Swing and a miss. He got him. A high fastball cut on and missed. And the Phils have salvaged the final game of this 3-game series.